What I do?
5 seconds?
Yeah, it's not.
Appointed time at 5:30 arriving. I would like to call the Tuesday, July 27th, 2021 Committee of the Whole to order. Would you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Will do. Alderman Redpath.
Here.
Alderman Gregory.
Here.
Alderman Williams.
Here.
Alderman Fulgenzi.
Here.
Alderman Proctor.
Here.
Alderwoman DeCenso.
Present.
Alderman McMiniman.
Here.
Alderwoman Connolly.
Present.
Alderman Donlin.
Here.
Alderman Hanauer.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, a quorum is present.
Thank you. Do you have a motion to approve the July 13th, 2021 committee meetings?
So moved.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Madam Treasurer, would you please present your treasurer's report?
Sure, Chair Fulgenzi. How are you this evening?
Pretty good, thank you.
Good. The corporate
And how are
fund.
you?
I think I'm doing well. The corporate fund in the month of June had a beginning balance of $38,043,112. We took in total receipts of $21,648,412. We had total disbursements in the month of June of $21,020,672, which left the corporate fund with an ending balance in the month of June of $38,670,852. This concludes my report, Chair Fulgenzi.
Thank you. Do we have an OBM contract report? I guess not. Are there any presentations?
No, Mr. Chair.
Do we have the ordinances tabled or remaining committee?
2021-239, 2021-254, 2021-255, 2021-289.
Thank you. Do we need the ordinances for committee consideration?
CWLP 2021-300, an ordinance accepting bids and authorizing the execution of contract UE 22-05-25, generator breaker switchgear cubicle retrofit with National Breaker Services, LLC, in an amount of $204,800 for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move for consent.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
2021-301, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of inventory items for the pulverizers located in Unit 4 from Wood Group USA Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $56,595 for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move for consent.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
Public Works 2021-302, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of a 2021 demo model 3T Prowler easement machine from Co-Equipment Incorporated for an amount not to exceed $72,530.
Move for consent.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
2021-311, an ordinance accepting the lowest bid and authorizing execution of contract number PW 22-05-23 with Traffic Control Corporation for video image vehicle tracking and detection systems in an amount not to exceed $127,150 for the Office of Public Works.
Move to consume.
Any discussion?
Yes,
Who said that?
I did. Oh, down here.
Oh, on this side.
Nate, could you tell us how this is going to be implemented and set up is there certain areas we're going to hit? We're going to be able to move it around? How's that going to work?
These are simply replacements for older cameras or
Okay.
detection that's failing due to pavement cracking. I think 4 of the locations include Washington. We're planning on putting them at Washington and Amos, Chatham and Laurel, Chatham and Old Jack, North Grand and Bruns Lane, and Isles and the mall entrance. Those are the MyoVision fisheye ones. And then 11th and Hazeldale, we're planning on putting the Autoscope, the 4-unit cameras there. That's a little bit more expensive one just due to the size of the intersection and the hill coming down. We have to utilize that type of software.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chair. And just for clarification, Director, they're not red light cameras, they're not anything like that, they're just regular cameras to see what's going on.
Yes, that's correct, to detect the vehicles, just to change the light in essence, and to
Thank
begin
you.
a phase. You're welcome.
Alderman Donovan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just, you said Washington and Amos?
Yeah, so don't speed down the street.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
correct.
Not a red light camera.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
2021-312, an ordinance authorizing an agreement with Morris Leonardo Parker Ltd. for design services for Municipal Center West one-stop shop interior renovations for an amount not to exceed $34,765 for the Office of Public Works.
Move for consent.
Second.
Do I have a discussion? Any discussion? Alderman Hannah?
Somebody explain what's going on here with this, what we're doing?
That's you, Nate.
Director Bottom can do.
On this agreement with Malloy Parker for design services for one-stop shop, what's the plan? What's the idea?
The plan is to basically get the building and zoning department down to the first floor, some of the area, as well as our motor vehicle parking down to the first floor, just so for safety purposes, so that the majority of the public coming in will just come to the first floor. They won't have to go up to the second or third floor.
Well, and with all due respect, I thought that with the planning and zoning and all that, we're trying to go to online where they can submit things online to where they do not have to come in. I would imagine with like tickets and stuff, that's something we could look at as well, or with parking. I don't know what. I just want to make sure we got to get out of this mindset that people got to come down here to do business. We got to start getting it to where people can do it online. And we got to do soon. We're way behind other cities. I just think that we need to, rather than spend the money on this, let's start getting our other stuff back up and running, and so people can not come down and do a lot of their businesses, submit to work for permits and everything without coming down here. It costs them money. They got to park. It takes some time. When a lot of other cities are doing it more efficiently, and you don't have to have the person-to-person contact as well.
And we still are moving ahead, too, with online permit and plan review. We're just wrapping up the newest version of CityWorks so that we can integrate the data and move ahead with the Highland on-base permit and plan review, too.
So, Nate, where is there's already the treasurer's office, the clerk's office, which have to be exposed for public, CWLP, so people can come in and pay their bills at the window. So where are you going to locate this that it's not going to disrupt those?
Yeah, so the tentative plan is in the kind of where ISD is.
That's down on the first floor south.
On the southeast portion of it,
Right.
That's correct. Yes, they would necessarily be transferred to the third floor.
Because they don't have the public access needed that they need. Okay.
That's correct, as well as the administrative division for CWLP. They can move up to the third floor, and then the housing division over there is the tentative plan. It's still a work in progress.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderman Donovan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I noticed this is for design services. What is the anticipated total cost of the project?
$500,000 to $600,000.
This is put on debate.
Second.
The one thing I'd like to say is there are still a certain percentage of people, maybe 20, 30% of people that can't navigate the internet like some of us can. And I may not be one of them. The thing of it is, we just have to consider everybody, and they can't comprehend the internet. So I think we need to do both.
Mr. Chair, I agree with that. I think we need to do both the online and the user-friendly first floor approach is a good approach. There's some folks, they got to get that permit on day one. You know, they got to come in. They can't risk putting it online because that might take longer than coming in person. You got to talk with a particular person or give some documentation to make something happen faster. Sometimes, you know, so we got to accommodate, I think, both sets of situations. So I think it's expensive, but this is a long-term investment that'll go 10, 20 years. So it looks like a lot of money, but spread over 10, 20 years, it looks more reasonable.
Alderman Anna.
Thank you. Well, I wish if this would get permits out in one day, I'd be all over it. But we know that's not going to happen. Permits take longer than what we all want it to happen. And the complaints that we've gotten from developers and from builders and you know, we see more and more. And, you know, your department's stressed and that, and, you know, with the way we do things by hand, that causes permits to take longer. But still, $500,000 is a lot of money for this. And, you know, I think that while I realize you don't want people up here and that, people have been doing that for a long time too, and it doesn't cost us anything. So $500,000 for a project, I can't be for that. So I ask that this get put on debate.
Second.
Mr. Chair, Alderman Redpath made the motion, and Alderwoman DeCenso made the second.
Do I have to withdraw?
It's for consent.
Yeah, I'll withdraw my motion, make it to debate.
Second.
Donald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I echo the comments of my colleague to my left. It's, you know, we have to ask ourselves, $500,000 to $600,000, and what are we doing? We're preventing someone from getting into an elevator that's closer to the front door and going up one more level for $500,000 or $600,000. I mean, in all fairness, if you could demonstrate to us, you know, and I know that's the purpose of this design, but what it is going to entail, how it is going to make anything more efficient, it'd be much easier to consider. But, I mean, we're not talking about, you know, moving a city department from another building where, you know, where you have to consolidate offices into a public area. We're talking about moving offices from one floor. And that is a lot of money. I mean, there's plenty of projects we have, infrastructure related, that would be good to invest this money into. So anyway, Director, if you could get that information, that would be very helpful. And you're always good about that, so thank you.
Thank you. As someone who oversees a statewide licensing and permitting system, I can tell you that Alderman Fulgenzi is absolutely correct. As we've found out throughout this pandemic, not everyone has reliable internet service. So it's pretty naive of us to sit here and say, let's just put it all online. Yes, ideally, in a perfect world, that would be how it works. But you have to account for the people that don't have the internet service or don't know how to use it and do want to come in and have questions answered. That is a service we have to provide. So should it cost $500,000? I don't think so. I agree with that. But let's use some common sense approach to this.
Mr. Chair.
Alderman McMiniman.
I think everyone around the table is making good comments. Something we also have to remember is that ISD, Information Services Division, they will be moving out of the first floor at the east end. So we've got to redesign that space for other users. And so I think that's what this cost is also all about when ISD moves out, because we're going to put them in a separate building, as I remember. So we got to remember that, too.
One of the things that I'd like to see is when somebody comes in with a permit, whoever handles it for them walks that through the different processes and makes sure it's completed. That seems to me to be the fastest way to get things done. So I'd like you to consider that anyway.
Well, back to Alderman DeCenso's discussion, I don't think we're cutting off services. I don't think that's what he meant, but because we're still going to have the services if it goes up and down. But you know, We got to make it as convenient as we can. We
For
have
everyone.
we have some internal problems with our processes that would probably go better. And I know the mayor's addressed this before because, frankly, taking 6 weeks or 3 months to get permits to build something is ridiculous. We got to try to streamline that process. And so I know that's part of it, what they're going to work on. So thank you.
Any other discussion? Mayor?
Yeah, a couple of, I think Nate hit the point with CityWorks and moving everything online. That's where we'll get to eventually. But the other part are two things. One is safety. You know, it eliminates the need to wander throughout the building. The other one is with regards to the coronavirus, as Alderwoman DeCenso alluded to. You know, we're on the verge of a escalation right now. We're going through an escalation. I was called by Channel 20 yesterday about wearing masks again. And so we want to keep things open, moving in that direction. We encourage people to get the vaccine. But until that time, we should be doing what we can to make sure that we limit access. You know, online's one of them, but definitely making sure everybody's on the first floor being served as conveniently as possible is one of those parameters. So I think that really comes into play with regards to that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
General City Business, 2021-303, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of 11 defibrillators plus accessories, spare parts, and trade and allowance from Zoll Medical Corporation in an amount not to exceed $349,684.17 for the
We want a fair
Fire
contract.
Department.
Let's go.
Hey.
Move for consent.
Yes. We want it now. Fair contract.
It's our money and we want it now.
That's not a good way to get your point across.
Pay taxes too. It is. We pay taxes, we want our money. We patch potholes, we put out snow, we do all the work.
Come to the table. Come to the table.
Come to the table, come out and patch potholes with us. Get out the heat, pick up the branches and leaf bags with the citizens want.
Start Ward 1, I got a lot of potholes.
Mr. Chair, you know, I've been on this council 10 years. I don't recall, but 2 or 3 times when our meetings have been disrupted like that, and it's unacceptable. And I hope the AFSCME folks recognize that once they do it, everybody might think they can do that type of thing. And we just have to have standards, and we have to respect one another. So we were in the middle of a conversation here, and I think the AFSCME leader is the one who yelled into the speakerphone out of turn. So I hope that gets communicated to him. That's just unacceptable.
I agree. Thank you.
Move for consent.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
2021-304, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of proposals and execution of agreements for sale of city-owned property consisting of 4 parcels for a collective amount of $2,100 for the Office of Budget and Management.
Consent. Second.
Discussion.
I have a few questions. So I guess I don't know who this would be for, but I'm happy to see that some of these lots are being purchased. I do know some of these names. So when people are purchasing these lots, is there a vetting process to ensure that we're going to get some good productivity out of these lots? All of these names on here, I definitely know them. I'm definitely comfortable with, but I know the question was brought to me about the responsibility, and we just don't want another person who's going to leave it sitting or undeveloped, or we have to worry about cutting the grass every 3 weeks again. Anybody?
I don't know if Amanda Long's here, but purchasing agent, but Daryl Harris might be able to talk about the process.
Welcome back.
You're on the hot seat, Daryl.
He's always in the hot seat.
Poor Daryl.
Good evening. First of all, you're 100% correct. After we receive the lots, they come naturally part of the lots that the city would maintain and cut.
Okay. All right. So they have, you said they have a plan with them, or are they? So when
Sometimes the person that's requesting lot have different options and stuff for the lots. Some want to build, sometimes they want to do garages.
Okay.
Some want to make natural space and stuff for to the area. But the great thing about when someone takes on a lot of something of that nature, it goes back with them on the tax roll if you're talking about that aspect of it.
Okay. All right. I appreciate you. That's good.
No problem.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
2021-305, an ordinance approving the appointment of Scott Marlowe to the Springfield Urban Forestry Commission.
Move for debate.
Second.
Any discussion? Is Scott here?
Yes. Hi, thank you for the consideration. I just wanted to extend my appreciation that you guys will consider me for the UFC. I've been with IDOT for 20 years. I've done all kinds of environmental type policies and procedures for the department. If you're familiar with our design environment manual, I write policies and procedures for that, including ways that we mitigate for our tree impacts. I chair the stormwater committee for IDOT. So I think I have a lot to offer with our communication, that we can open up more dialogue with the city and how IDOT plants our trees, and work with you guys on other ways that you guys might want to implement your tree forestry program, and whatever expertise I have to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, thank you, Chair. I just want to thank you for stepping up and serving. I've had a lot of trees in Ward 8 that a lot of ash trees that have been taken down recently. It leaves a hole. So I appreciate you taking the time and serving on this.
Right. Yeah, I was involved in when we had to do our EAB mitigation strategies, and where we would remove trees for ash and intersections and stuff. And quite heartbreaking to have to remove that many trees and find a species that's suitable for that location.
Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Anyone else? All in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carries.
2021-306, an ordinance authorizing a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $1,200,903.18 to provide funds to assist in the Salvation Army in operating a safety net shelter for the next 24 months, with a grant agreement for 50% and a CDBG subrecipient agreement for 50% of the requested appropriation for the Office of Planning and Economic Development.
Mr. Chair, I move to hold this in committee.
Second.
All in favor?
Chair, sorry, we can have any discussion opportunity on this one.
Okay.
It's an ordinance before the committee, and I know we have someone who signed up to speak tonight.
I would say that we need to hold this because I think that.
I'm not arguing with the holding. I'm just asking, since we have someone from the continuum of care who signed up to speak, I'd like to.
That's fine. I'm good with it, but I think they need to discuss it among themselves first and really come up with the plan, and then come back and discuss it. But that's fine. We can do it.
I think we need a motion to discuss then.
Motion for discussion, please. Thank you.
I'm going to vote no.
If we could have Josh Sabo come to the podium.
Wait a minute. I think we need to pass that motion, but I'm going to vote no on the motion. I think that I agree with Alderman Gregory. It's in his ward, and he wants the interested persons to sit down and discuss something and bring us something tangible for the city council to talk about. So
we vote on this discussion or movement? Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right.
Against? Motion carries.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I won't take up too much of your time, but my name is Josh Sabo, and I'm the coordinator of the Heartland Continuum of Care. And I want to start by saying we're grateful that the city of Springfield is willing to consider an investment of $1.2 million in our system to address homelessness. A strategic investment of that size could have a significant impact toward functionally ending homelessness in our community. Earlier this year, the Heartland Continuum of Care put together a formal work group to develop a short-term strategy, and that work began to start to lay out some immediate steps we could take while we also develop a long-term strategy to address homelessness. And I'm excited to say that long-term planning process has already begun with review of our local data. We'll begin assembling the steering committee that will guide that process. And in the coming weeks, interviews and focus groups will begin. We expect that'll happen in August. So that continues to move forward, and we're grateful for the city's support in making that possible. This long-term planning is incredibly important, and it'll begin to inform our decision-making in the next 6 months on the issue of homelessness. But while that work is underway, there are key short-term strategy improvements we can make with confidence. Investing in appropriate amounts of supportive housing are never a bad idea. I know you've heard about that several times, specifically rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing. A lot of our conversation as a community revolves around emergency shelter, and that's often the case in communities that have not adequately invested in supportive housing. Expanding shelter alone, though, creates a scenario where our system to address homelessness is stuck due to a lack of appropriate supportive housing. Our continuum continues to support the need for an overflow shelter alongside the expansion of supportive housing interventions. And with that in mind, in the ordinance before you, we did not have the opportunity to be involved in the development of this ordinance, and significant questions remain about what exactly is being proposed. In meeting with the Salvation Army and our Continuum Board today, there was unanimous support for encouraging you to hold this ordinance in committee, while the Heartland Continuum of Care works collaboratively with the Salvation Army to bring a proposal before you. We plan to have that proposal to you by the end of next week, a proposal that we believe will most acutely address the local needs we have. Thank you.
Sure.
Alderman Redpath and Alderman Conlon.
Well, I guess my question is does your plan fall in line to using this facility if that's what, have you talked to the city?
Right. I mean, we have talked with Salvation Army. We've been a part of earlier conversations with the city. It's just the specific details of how this ordinance took shape. That part of it we've not.
So it's not necessarily that you're opposed to this?
We're not opposed to overflow shelter, okay. Certainly not. We're not opposed to working with Salvation Army. Again, they were a part of that conversation today.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Josh, thanks for coming in tonight.
Sure.
This is obviously an issue that actually does impact the entire city. And one of the things that we asked you, although you weren't here last week,
sure,
was for that data. And so that was one of the things that I wanted to ask you about in our open session was, are you able to get us data on who is unsheltered in Springfield and what those needs are? Is that the kind of information that you're going to be looking at to shape your proposal?
Yeah, I mean, we can provide, especially from our point in time count, we can give you a snapshot of that year by year. Our housing outreach team continues to work to create a list of people who are unsheltered. We won't have, named data on that, but we'll be able to give you an approximate idea of how many people are unsheltered, as well as how many shelter beds are available. How that might work together is certainly a part of the proposal we'll bring to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Alderman Proctor.
I'd just like to make a point of clarification from what Alderman McMiniman said about this being in Alderman Gregory's ward. It's, in fact, in Ward 5. So I don't know if that changes anything, but I just want to make that.
Hey, help me out anytime you're ready. I don't know
if that helped yet or not. I don't know. But I'd like to be part of the conversation to learn more about what's going on. Because I think you guys are doing a great. I know Erica, we're meeting tomorrow, Val, and everybody. So I look forward to having those discussions and look forward to moving the ball forward on this.
Thank you.
Alderwoman DeSenza.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Josh, for being here.
Sure.
And you are working with the Salvation Army. You're having those conversations.
Yeah.
And you did meet today.
Yes.
And everyone's on the same page that they want this held until a more detailed plan comes forward,
yes.
Correct? Okay. Just wanted to emphasize that part of the conversation. Thank you.
Alderman Donald.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll keep my comments very short. Mr. Sabo, I appreciate you coming here this evening, and we've said time and time again that we would like to rely on the experts. And the fact that you've been proactive, already reached out to the Salvation Army, you think you can come up with a plan next week, I think that's wonderful. Again, I appreciate whoever was involved in getting this conversation started in July rather than September, October. That's good to hear we're making progress, so thank you.
Sure, yeah, and the Continuum began this conversation in February in a formal way. And so really what we'll bring to you next week is not something we're coming up with in 7 days. It's something we've been working on for 6 months.
Well, that's good to know, too. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Alderman McMiniman.
So, Josh, the ball is now in your court. You know, we're expecting you to come up with something that can get a good vote out of everybody, including the Salvation Army, including the mayor, and a viable plan, because we want it as soon as possible, because we want a location that those that are on the unsheltered streets can get to a place as soon as possible. So good luck with your efforts, and hope to get us there.
Absolutely.
Alderman Gregory.
So we definitely had a meeting yesterday. That's why I really didn't want to get into discussion, because we had a meeting where everybody was supposed to be there and have a discussion on how we move forth. But for whatever reason, and whatever, everybody has a problem with the mayor. Nobody wants to meet with the mayor on a problem that you guys are going to need the city support on. So that's what's making this process difficult. I spoke on this in January about the need for it. And now that we're here, fine, everybody's got an idea how to handle it best. It's in everybody's ward now. And that's fine. I'm glad we're here and everybody wants to fix this, but we need to all work together, and whatever little stuff, it just needs to stop, because we're not going to get anywhere. And I believe in you and your leadership for this continuum of care. But the way this thing is going, it sucks. It's terrible. As a new guy in politics, this whole situation, how we doing this sucks. I'm very frustrated with it, you know, and I hope when we come back, we have a really, really good plan. Our community, Ward 2, has really dealt with the brunt of this for a very long time, you know, and I want to move forward from it. I want to help people do it. But the way it's going right now, we're just going to keep doing this circle, unless I think the Salvation Army is in the continuum of care, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. They should probably be sitting there with you.
They are.
You know?
They were part of those conversations today, and I absolutely understand your frustration about the meeting that took place yesterday, and I hope you can understand on our end as well, the time to collaborate on this is not a week after it's surprisingly emerged.
And I get that. So if we can't make it yesterday to talk with the mayor and everybody else, but we can make it tonight and talk about it. You know what I'm saying? So it's just,
yeah.
You know, you know, that's why I didn't want to really have this conversation tonight, because I really, truly felt like that it's not on us. It's on a continuum to fix it. And we're going to put the money behind whatever you guys are thinking that needs to be done best. I'm fully with that.
And that's what we're here to ask for, Alderman. Truly. Thank you.
All right.
Alderman Williams.
Yes. Was there anybody missing from the meeting today?
From the Continuum Board?
Yes.
Yeah, there was about 1/3 of the board that was missing.
I'm speaking of the agencies that are involved in putting this plan together, and the entities.
Right. All the agencies that have been a part of that short-term working group were there as part of that conversation today.
Okay. No one was missing?
Nope.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Well, thanks, Josh, for coming up. And I think everybody's on the same page where direction we should take. I think it's how do you get there? And really for us as a city, and everybody knows this, the gap of housing are people on the streets. So I know people soften it by the unsheltered. I call it street homeless because that's first and foremost in everybody's mind. And that's what we have to prioritize. I was on the phone with HUD today, and they said that's how you get priority funding, is by housing the ones on the street, the hardest to house. And so that's the direction we need to go, and it has to be with supportive services. So the $1.2 million, everybody gets caught up on the facilities, which I understand, and the option we have right now is the adult rehab center. It was used for that purpose, but the whole process is the safety net program, or whatever we want to call it. We can call it overflow, but really, how do we get the individuals off the streets and into supportive housing? Rapid rehousing, I'm all for it, but you have to have the supportive services. So I don't care if the $1.2 million is used for the supportive services. When Mercy Communities did the walkthrough, I thought that was very important. The individuals that went through it, they talked that they're ready for rapid rehousing. Where they lack resources is the program part, the supportive services. And we heard Penny Penny Harris up here, Penny Powell, and others up here about the need to support the services. So everyone around the horseshoe should understand this is, I don't care what it takes. We heard businesses talk about it. Everybody talks about it. The time for action's now. And that's why we brought the ordinance forward with regards to that. And I said this in the meeting yesterday, two things. One was we'd have to have a a homeless outreach services team that includes all the available resources from mental health experts, our own that we're funding. It'd be a qualified civilian. If police need to be called into that process or whatever that outreach services team is on a daily basis to create the profile that you're working towards, the app. I think that's the platform you're working towards, which was proposed previously, which is good because it hopefully it integrates into the HMIS system so everybody's on the same page. And when you're out there on the streets, you know the individuals by name. And then if someone doesn't come into the shelter, especially in the winter, if it's the overflow shelter, then they can say, Jane Smith's missing. Where's she at? And where's her normal hangouts? Things of that nature. So we start building the relationships person by person and moving them up that supportive housing ladder. But it has to have the support services. So, if I even said, at the meeting yesterday, we'd put up $2 million. The county should put up $1 million. Capital Township should put up $1 million. And there's other funders that can put up the money. And so it's a matter of how do we, now's the time to do it because everybody's talking about American Rescue Plan dollars. We have CDBG funds, home funds. Now's the time to make it happen. So we should be able to get there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's why we come forward at this point because, we're working in that direction. There's no such thing as rapid rehousing or permanent supportive housing without supportive services. Those are a part of those programs. And the issue that we run into year over year, we create more emergency shelter. Emergency shelter does not end homelessness. It's an important intervention. It can keep people safe in the midst of a cold winter or a hot summer. But we don't end homelessness without more supportive housing like rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing. So as we put together this proposal, these are exactly the sort of things that we'll string together for you and tell you what results can come from that. In terms of an outreach team, we have a housing outreach team with the police, with behavioral health, with several agencies that are already a part of that are doing that work. So a lot of those pieces are already in place. The issue for us as a community is how do we continue to invest in those and build on those. There's a lot of great work happening, but there's also a lot of under-resourced parts of our crisis response system. But with what you're saying, we can get there. That's exactly what Erica said last week as well. It's not unattainable for us as a community. With this long-term plan, with these short-term next steps, there are significant ways we can move forward right now.
Thank you.
It's good to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next ordinance.
2021-307, an ordinance to decrease the number of Class D liquor licenses by one due to closure of business by Culinary Creations, LLC, doing business as Pio Restaurant located at 2824 Plaza Drive.
Move to consent.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Present.
Noted. 2021-308, an ordinance to increase the number of Class D liquor licenses by one for Pio Partners, LLC, doing business as Pio Bistro, located at 2824 Plaza Drive.
Move for consent.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Present.
Noted. 2021-313, an ordinance approving the reappointment of Randy Belleville to the Springfield Urban Forestry Commission.
Move for debate.
Second.
Any discussion? Randy here?
No.
No, it's a reappointment.
No.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
2021-314, an ordinance authorizing an increase in number of Class D liquor licenses by one for TKE One Lounge, LLC, doing business as TKE One Lounge, located at 1701 J. David Jones Parkway.
I'll make a motion for debate because I might have an amendment for this one. I don't want to forget it.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Present.
Noted.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
2021-315, an ordinance amending Chapter 36 of the 1988 City of Springfield Code of Ordinances as amended by amending Section 36.58C8, leaves of absence / sick leave.
Move for consent.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Any unfinished business?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
And this would be for our Economic Development Director. Our cannabis business program, when is the anticipated start date for that? Switch your hat.
Thank you, sir. Actually, it'll be after the housing one. I think the housing one closes, I think, 31st. I'd have to check, but after that, they're going to open up the business one.
Okay.
With regards to that, one item we want clarification on, or I should provide clarification. Senator Turner asked a specific question with regards to the housing, is why are they asking for income? Because I don't think it's supposed to be income based as far as when it was the first intent. And the reason for that is because there's other revenue sources to help with, either if it's community development block grant funds, something of that nature. It is income driven. So what they're doing is trying to get as much information as possible. So if there's not cannabis funds available for the housing, which there's not much, I think right now on the housing side it's about $50,000, that they'd be able to layer it with community development block grant funds if they qualify. So that's why they ask for the income on those applications.
And just because I'm on the subject, and I'll be brief, so the housing program, what I am hearing, thank you on the income levels, on the housing, I'm hearing that their citizens are having trouble finding contractors to do it, and I was thinking maybe our team could maybe possibly provide a list of contractors, maybe for people to contact. Maybe, I don't know if that's an option.
Yeah, we'll check with Corporation Counsel if we can provide a list, or how's that? I think they can provide a list. What they do is just say, here's a list of potential contractors, but we don't try to steer them one way or the other.
Absolutely. A lot of people, especially our elders, just don't know of any, so they, have a hard time and got to go through. I haven't seen too many phone books, but are not too savvy on Google and stuff. So yes, that'll help them out. Thank you.
Alderman Williams.
Oh, yes, Mayor. So when I talked with Senator Turner, she was adamant about her intent. Now, this happened before I was on the board, but she really said owner-occupied and in a geographic area, and that income should not be a part of it. So does this mean we're going to continue asking for the income information or not?
Yeah, we will, and it's not going to figure into the approval process. But again, we have limited cannabis resources available. So if someone needs help, if there's another way to help them through community development block grant funds, which is income driven, that's why we ask that. But I guess the individual, they could say, I don't want to give it. And if they choose not to, then they still could apply for cannabis funds. But there's not a significant amount. They may miss out on the opportunity for community development block grant funds.
Yeah, I surely understand that. I think what happened was someone filled out the application and saw that, and then when they questioned it, that's when she said that her and Alderman Grady's intent was just those two items. So I don't know if there's going to be an adjustment to the application where they can opt out, or are they just going to automatically go ahead and be required? In other words, if they leave it blank, would that have an impact on it?
What we probably need to do is put optional, but this could be a qualifying factor for other funding resources like CDBG, and maybe that's what we need to do. But it'd be optional for the particular R3 application.
Okay, I'll share that. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
There's no more.
Oh, that's not a vote. That's new business.
All in favor?
Aye.
That was so much. That was practice.
We adjourn?
It sounded like a motion.
Any additional? Oh, well, never mind.
Alderman Redpath.
Yes, as you, Mayor and Corporation Counsel, as you saw, the ASME folks were in here about their contract. We understand that that's still in the process, and I believe another contract with IBEW is in the process too. Can you tell us where we are on those, Corporation Counsel, so we know what's going on?
I did send each of you a kind of a breakdown for the Ask Me discussion.
Okay.
There's really been, it's been kind of interesting. Gene Mitchell, who's kind of the, I would say, lead negotiator, actually has brought up a lot of very interesting issues, and we spent a huge amount of time going through. He probably requested like 300 changes to the contract. And so there's been to the 3 contracts, about 100 each. And we've talked about that, and we've made good progress on basically all of the non-economic issues. The primary issue right now, and I did send you the breakdown from OBM for their requests for the economic requests. And I think you can look at that and see where there is a little bit of a difference of view in terms of where the city's been, at least historically, around that 2% range. And there are many multiples of that. But you do have in your email basically a complete breakdown of all of the information, just so you can be brought up to speed. I did include with that if you would like at the next, because I did want you to have a chance to look at it, maybe at the council meeting, if you'd like, we can do an executive session, kind of talk through, exactly what the issues are. There are multiple more meetings already scheduled in August with some, feasibility, I think, of making some progress. We did on one of the contracts, I think, quite a bit last week. With IBW, it's gone through the normal process. Again, the issue is with them purely economic, and their concern is that the city has fallen behind what the outside areas are paying, meaning the private sector and so on. So that's the process. They've asked to have a mediation process, which we've agreed to, and that's going to take place, I think, August 20th.
Okay.
I would expect it to be resolved then, because it's there aren't huge differences.
My only concern is that we're continually moving, and we're not no delays if we can. I mean, I know we got a process, but my concern is just keeping things moving, and we bargain back and forth on both sides to make sure it's a fair contract for both the city of Springfield and the.
There's no doubt about it, and I think when you look at the materials from that I did forward from OBM, just on the breakouts, I think you'll kind of see what the primary issues are. And some of the suggestions have been, for example, the city does not have really a step system like the state does, a step system.
Right.
And so one of the primary areas has been a discussion about the city accepting a full step system plus regular annual increases. And so when you multiply it all together, you'll see on the numbers it's fairly substantial.
Okay.
But we'll have an opportunity to talk through it, because it becomes very much ultimately kind of a council issue, because it has a huge impact on budgeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll just.
But generally speaking, I would say it's been very, I would use the word collegial, meaning there's been some of the sessions where I think the department, on the operational side, I actually think there's been several sessions that were actually very good on the operational side.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Corporation Counsel's, he's a nice person. I mean, there's movement going forward. I heard it from the individuals in charge. It's going forward, and people take vacation, and it wasn't the administration taking a vacation. Then they come back, and this is the treatment. Let's remind people, no furloughs, no layoffs. When people thought we would, we tightened our belt from day one, and we saved the city's budget. So when people see large balances like the $30+ million that the treasurer reported, I asked Director McCarty, which we will, we're going to take out the ARP funds, because the American Rescue Plan dollars, I was in a joint news conference with Senator Durbin. Thankfully, he's one vote made that happen. I believe one vote. So Duckworth and Durbin made it happen. And so the challenge was make sure you spend it wisely. It's for the long term. How do you make sure that Springfield addresses the ills of sewers, And, water, how do you make sure you have those important infrastructure so we can grow? But people see those large dollars, and I don't blame, anybody moving that direction, but we are moving forward in a positive manner. That's what I've been told on both sides, actually. But really, what we cannot do is put the city in jeopardy because people think we're out of the woods. And this pandemic can come back worse than this year, possibly. Nobody knows. But the bottom line is we don't know what our revenue sources are. We're going to have to start diversifying it. That's what the importance of the sports complex was, because sales tax isn't going to cut it anymore. I'm sure that will change. But really, the last time, people thought we were in good times, we're still paying for that debt. And it's just not the salary increases, it's the pensions. And so we all know that is still looming out there. I'm sure Alderman McMiniman will remind us come budget time, as well as Director McCarty, but that's where we need to make common sense approach moving forward. Everybody wants a fair contract. There's been no ill will. There's not been a best and final offer, I do not believe. Correct?
No, that is correct.
Right. So they're moving forward, and hopefully we can get there with all the unions. How many contracts are you working on right now?
I think there are, right now 5, of which 3 are AFSCME. 3 of them are related.
Just to keep everybody, minds in perspective, but there's a lot of resources out there. But as we heard, we're challenging with homeless, sewers, the utility. I mean, the list goes on and on. Economic development. So there's a lot of needs out there, and we're just trying to make sure we thread the needle and move Springfield to the direction we all want.
So, Mayor, what is the number of the ARP money that's going to be taken out of that fund balance?
As far as for what?
You said you're going to have Director McCarty pull that money out.
Well, right now, go ahead, Director McCarty.
It's about 16 million, Alderman.
I just wanted to have a hard number.
And the reason for that, the reason for it is to track it, right, Alderman Hanauer?
That's right. That's exactly why I'm asking.
Alderman Conley.
Thank you.
Alderman Hanauer.
Thank you, Chair.
I'll let Alderman Hanauer go first. Go ahead, Ralph. Go on, Ralph. You go ahead.
I was simply going to also mention that there is, one of the topics that has come up on 2 or 3 occasions is the American Recovery Act rescue monies and the willingness of the city to use them to pay salaries. So I would tell you that has been a topic of discussion on more than one occasion. I would just mention. And the discussion came up about the use of the recovery funds for fire, for the fire department budget. So those have been topics, if you will, that have been talked about.
But I think the consensus of this council, and we've heard it, is that the majority of us would like to see a lot of that money move towards infrastructure. And, the sewers are a big deal, and it's going to be a nightmare. It's going to come back to hit us. I know I got sewer problems at the lake, and everybody else does too. Not just sewer problems, other problems, but I think that's the consensus. And I'm not trying to speak for everybody, but that's the conversation I thought I heard.
Alderman Conley.
Thank you, Chair. Mayor, thank you.
You want to let Alderman Hanauer go?
No, I'm going to take beauty before age. Mayor, thank you for your statements. I think it really is important that the people who fix our streets and who provide the services that I get, the overwhelming majority of my emails, phone calls, Facebook messages are about the services that the people who are in this room tonight provide. And so I appreciate you saying we're going to have a fair contract for them. It's important that, our union employees, all of our union employees, almost all, police, are residents of our city. So these are city residents who provide our services, and I appreciate that we're going to have a fair contract for them soon. I think it's really important. There's a certain lack of stability when you don't have a contract. I've lived through that myself, and it can be concerning, and they're all out there providing services for us every day, and we appreciate that.
Alderman Hanauer.
Thank you. I just want to remind everyone that before we got all the COVID money and everything, we were spending about around $5 million a year out of fund balance to get our budget balanced. And if we continue in that process going forward, we can give all the contracts we want, we can give all the raises we want, but we'll be broke as anything. And, then you talk about shutting services down. We will not have any choice. It'll either be raise property taxes or cut services dramatically. And I don't know, Director McCarty, what approximately how many years what did we figure it was going to cost us? How many years if we continued in the trend that we were going forward? Wasn't it like four years or something like that before we hit critical mass?
Well, I think some would argue that we were at critical mass before when you look at what we're facing in the future. And just given your point, one thing I think I want to add is, as a practical matter, one of the things that I think I want to remind folks to consider is, and Alderwoman Conley was kind of talking about the services that are provided. The reality is, if you are fiscally irresponsible with how you spend funds, and you get to a point where you're locked into, say, wage increases that the city really can't afford, even though it might look like today we can, over time, those don't go away. So the practical implication is that over time, if you get into that point, you have two choices. You raise taxes or you do what? You do layoffs, which have been done. You go back, Public Works was well over 220 back in 2006, 2007. Now they're at like 180, 185. A lot of that is because of pensions and how that is crowded out other departmental spending. Police down from 280 to 249 to, I think right now, 225 is what we passed the budget at this year. So I just always encourage, and Mr. Zirkle's well aware of this, we're talking about things here that are not, it's not one-time spending, it's increasing base spending that goes up each and every year. And you really have to take the long view, and I think that that's where the city is trying to be responsible, and as we have these discussions, we want to be fair. The problem right now, I think, is that fair is people have different interpretations of what that means.
Well, and keep in mind, that's why I'm concerned about spending $500,000 on that ordinance to do the one-stop shop. We're going to get from the fire department, I can guarantee you, they're coming in. They're going to, even though we've given them the 1.3 back, they're going to come in with I'm betting it'll be over $500,000. I'll bet you it's going to be closer to $800,000, $900,000 in overtime this year, and that's coming out of fund balance. Now, we did okay. We got money back and all that, but in the grand scheme of things, we're spending on our savings here, and we got to keep that in mind. And so I agree, we're not out of the woods. And I want people to get the payments and get their raises and everything. And it's not just the union people, it's the non-union people that, a lot of times they haven't gotten raises in quite a while. But the fact of the matter is we have to watch it from what we're spending out of fund balance. And if you look and we spend out of fund balance, and we got to be careful. And this ARC or whatever it is, we need to see it. It needs to be something tangible, or we might as well just have one hell of a fireworks show and burn it all up because we won't have anything to see from it.
Alderman Proctor.
No, I agree with you, Alderman Hanauer. I think we need to focus on, I think there is going to be a fiscal reckoning coming at some point. We just don't know when. It seems to come, I think we get some mixed messages sometimes too. Sometimes we see that we get the message that things are okay, and then some budget sessions we get that things are very bad. So it's kind of hard to be consistent on those issues. But I want to kind of point out that this is going on everywhere. There's wage inflation going on everywhere. McDonald's is giving out free iPhones to try to attract people to work, and they're asking $15, $16, $17 there. So this is happening everywhere. It's going to be the new norm, I think, because of coming out of this pandemic and everything. So wage inflation is going to be here. We're going to have to deal with it, and we're going to have to live with it and figure it out.
Alderwoman DeCenso.
Thank you, Chair. I echo Alderman Proctor's comments. We have labor shortages because people have decided they want to live their lives differently or in a different way, or they're going to change their jobs or whatever. But what I want to see change up here is the doom and gloom we talk about every week. Let's talk about economic development and why we don't have an economic development director leading the city forward with this money that we have. Let's talk about what we could bring to the city. Rivian just has a new plant that they're talking about bringing in. It brought 3,000 jobs to Bloomington Normal. What are we doing? What are we doing to get businesses to come to Springfield? That's where, so we want to talk about, we don't have to talk about raising taxes or raising property taxes. Let's talk about where the city is going, because I'm tired of talking about where we've been. Let's talk about where we're going.
I agree with that.
No, well said.
Alderman Conley.
I was just going to, in a very less eloquent way, echo what Alderwoman DeCenso said. We shouldn't be trying to cut ourselves into prosperity. We should be pushing for a growth mindset and seeing how we can build this city. It's a fabulous community. It's a great place to work. It's a great place to live and raise a family. We are ideally situated. We're right on an interstate. We've got rail. We've got high-speed internet. We've got a strong healthcare system. This community should be growing, and we need to be really pushing for that. We need an economic development director. We need someone at the helm of that office moving our community forward and selling us to people who are interested in this community, because we have a lot to offer here. Very proud of this town.
Alderman McMiniman.
Can we move on to a different topic? We're still talking about this.
Just one more thing. One more thing. If anyone's sitting up here, and you were all making fun of me before this meeting, calling me a cheerleader, and I was not. I was a pom-pom girl. But I will say this.
Oh, that makes sense now then.
Yes, I'm glad. I'm glad that makes sense. But I will say this. Everyone sitting up here, and Mayor, you do it actually very well. Everyone up here should be a cheerleader for this city all the time. Absolutely. Scott Dahl does it very well. We should be. I've heard Misty Busher do it well. I've heard Alderman McMenamin do it well.
I was a pom-pom girl, too.
Oh all right. So, we should all be cheerleaders for the city. We sit up here and we talk about the problems all the time. And yes, we have problems. Every city has problems. And they're all bubbling to the surface because of this pandemic. But can we please talk about some of the positive things going on in this city every now and then? Just every now and then. Yes, we have problems to solve, but we also have very good things going on in the city. So let's talk about that sometimes.
Well, is it my turn?
You can change the subject now.
Very true. Let's all be positive. Let's recall the fact that for the last 10 years, the city of Springfield has had the second lowest unemployment rate in the state of Illinois. Now that's, the state of Illinois has got its problems, but historically in the last 10 years, we've had the second lowest unemployment rate in the state of Illinois, just behind Bloomington, you mentioned. But what I wanted to, if we're done talking about, I forget what we started talking about, the budget or?
Budget.
I just want to make an announcement. Apparently, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is taking comments regarding whether we want or don't want Lake 2. They're taking those comments up until Saturday, July 31, which is the end of this week. And so if anyone out there wants to make comments pro Lake 2 or against Lake 2, they should direct those comments to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Mr. James Kelly, Post Office Box 2004, Rock Island, Illinois, 61204-2004. Again, that's Mr. James Kelly, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Post Office Box 2004, Rock Island, Illinois, 61204-2004. The comment period ends Saturday, July 31, unless the Corps agrees to extend the comment period, and some are asking it to be extended because the word on this just got out recently. I didn't know about it till yesterday. Constituents started writing about it. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing that announcement.
Is that going to be put on the city website?
It is.
Yeah, and I believe you can hopefully do it online at the Army Corps of Engineers to put in your comments as well. But with regards to that, that's been one of the frustrating parts of this whole process. In the initial notice, and Doug Brown can speak to this, or Corporation Counsel, the official notice that went out initially 3 years ago was with regards to recreation. That was one of the aspects of Hunter Lake. Well, now the Army Corps wanted us to reopen it and introduce that as a primary reason for Hunter Lake. Well, the primary reason for any lake, a backup water source, which we do not have. Chatham's called us at least probably 10 times since I've been mayor to provide water. Otherwise, they'd be in a boil order situation. We don't have a backup water source. Our backup is to dam the Sangamon River. And if it ever gets to that point, it'd be catastrophic for all the communities around us. So with regards to this, everybody talks economic development. We do have a recreational study, came back very positive with the U of I had done it. And then also with regards to economics, people talk about the natural gas plant. The Hunter Lake development, if it's granted, will surpass the number of jobs and economic activity generated from that. And what got Army Corps of Engineers off the dime, so to speak, was the pandemic. I brought it up. I said, who would have thought, who even heard of the pandemic a while back? I go, the drought is going to happen. It is going to happen. It's a matter of when. And so that was finally, I think they finally understood what we were talking about. We don't have a backup water source, and hopefully we get that backup water source. And, everybody can debate whether or not what's the one they think is the optimum. The optimum one so far with the studies is Hunter Lake. So hopefully people do make the comments. Delaying it is not an answer. I think we've delayed it enough. I think we've been at this for 40 years. It's time to move forward in a direction that can help not only Springfield, but our regional area grow economically and provide the essential source. Everybody talks about the electricity at the legislature. I'm more concerned about water because we can't live without water regardless. That's going to be the communities that have a ample, reliable source of water will be the ones that thrive in the future.
Mr. Chair.
Alderman Donlon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I work with a gentleman who he came into my office a couple days ago and said, "So now we want to build a lake?" And I looked at him, and he, I guess I'd seen the publicity on this request for comments, and I had to, it's kind of a good exercise for us all to go through. And I said, this has been going on since I was just a wee lad, I might add, but I remember when I first graduated from college, one of the first jobs I had, I went and worked with the Springfield Chamber of Commerce. And in the desk drawer was a map of Hunter Lake. And I went into Mike Boer's office with the map, and I said, wow, when is this going to happen? And he looked at me and he said, not anytime within the next 10 years. Well, here we are 25 years later. So, Mayor, I echo your comments. We need to get to a decision point. We need to finally get this thing moving along where we can have some direction one way or another. This is going on way too long. It's, you think about it, it's good for us to have that check when someone new and fresh is asking those questions because, we deal with these things. Mayor, you've dealt with them for a long, long time with your family and all. But we take them, they get set aside and we move on to the next issue. It's very fluid, the issues we have to deal with, but this just has to finally get to one way or another. We've got to get a decision. I'm glad to hear the Corps is trying, and the city are trying to get things moving along. But one of the questions that I think we need an answer to is after this comment period, what's next? And when can we expect that final decision? Because I remember prior mayor asking CWLP all the time, when are we going to get to a decision point? And we never, ever could get the answer. It's very frustrating.
I've been asking 5 mayors.
Yeah.
That means you've been on the council too long.
Just very briefly, what the Corps has indicated, their technical staff and meetings with the Corps commander indicated it would be a period of approximately 18 months, which started several months ago. So they are indicating by next summer there should be something formal. There was quite a discussion. I think their internal staff, there was quite a bit of disagreement because just very briefly, the original notices and so on that were put out specifically referenced recreation, as a factor. What it turns out is that the recreational need, the formal study that was done by University of Illinois demonstrates that there's a huge need. So with the lake, you get like a twofer, meaning you can get the recreational benefit and the water. And the internal study that was done just on the job creation side for the creation of the lake itself was in excess of 2,000 construction jobs. And the economic impact that University of Illinois came up with, that they do their own projections, indicates the lake almost pays for itself through economic activity because of tourism, people coming, and that sort of thing. It's like a tourism activity. So there's a lot of factors, but those are some of the issues why the Corps, I think, elected through much consternation with CWLP and the mayor and other people to go ahead and republish because of the new information I think they got from University of Illinois. So they do expect by next summer is what they've indicated.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Other new business.
I just got one quick question, one quick statement. So, and I've been waiting. I've been trying to hold my hand. I gained some weight, but so I just want to say real quickly, I definitely encourage both mayor and corporation council, because all of the ASME employees and people that you see, they're all constituents of ours, and we catch flack from them about the money, as we hear, and anybody would. I would be the same way. So I just want to encourage that and just keep in mind that I agree with my counterparts that they are citizens of this community. And as far as economic development, I echo your statement, Alderwoman DeCenzo. That is the way out, is to find innovative ways to really grow this city. And I'm all for it, especially for my ward that has been economic depressed for such a long time. That's part of the reasons why this building on the Salvation Army side it's a real concern to me and what we have over there. We can't, we talk about economic development in downtown and the homeless down there, how it hurts that. So just imagine how it's holding our community back, from growing, because it just is what it is. It sounds mean, but nobody wants their business around this situation. Nobody wants their houses around this situation. I wouldn't care, but most people do, and it's just preventing, and it's continuing to prevent my community from growing. I walk deep in Ward 2. We walk past homeless people laying on the streets every day, sitting next to the liquor stores every day. Tent City is something we've seen individually all our lives in our ward, and so that's why I'm trying to help that situation, even if it's in a temporary status, to give people the opportunity so we can help them move along to the next step in their lives. So when we speak of economic development, I'm all for it and growing, especially for our community that is in desperate need of it. And to me, I mean, the stats have been in Government Magazine, and I know it's a good city for some, but for some it's not, and it's been proven that it's not. So we have to keep that in mind, and my true belief is that we'll overcome all things once all sides of our city are really thriving, and once we get there, we won't have to worry about money no more.
Thank you. Any other new business, Mayor?
Just an announcement tonight, just a reminder, the Muni Band's playing at Duncan Park, and then also Levitt Concert Series. I think there's 2 more Thursdays left this week and next week, I believe. Isn't that right, Alderwoman Conley and DeCenzo?
That's right.
That's right.
You're the greatest advocates. We appreciate it.
That's right.
I think I'm sponsoring the one this week, and Alderwoman DeCenzo is sponsoring next week.
And we're going to make it a reality.
Boom, Bob, cheerleader.
If you were there on July 1st, you know what that means.
We just need some pom-poms. Are there any Alderman handout?
Yeah, I'd like to announce that August 2nd, there's a public meeting for Headley Road east of Cocamill, namely Headley and West White Oaks. That's a very dangerous
market area.
And so that's at 5:30. It's 4 to 6 at the KC on Isles.
August 2nd?
Yeah, so people can come out and they can, give us ideas or whatever. So thank you.
Is there any citizens to address the committee?
We have one signed up, Alice Ramey.
prom girl, huh? I was a cheerleader.
No? We can still get along.
I know, we just do it, don't we? You know, that's why we're where we at. I didn't get a chance to call about Hunter's Lake, but I can remember 1954 when your mother had Girl Scouts out there at the lake, okay, at Witchywagon. Oh, thank you.
I was a Girl Scout, too.
And it was so low, a bunch of us girls swung to the Boy Scout camp. Okay, that's how low it was. And I believe that was the 100-year drought to a point. I'm not quite sure. I think it was lacking about 10 years, something like that. We do need another lake. We do need some more water. Not because I'm an advocate of it, but it's because I think with the way things are going with the coronavirus and the way that people aren't taking their shots, you know, you have to pay them to take their shots. You got to pay them to give them an iPhone. Too bad, maybe we have to pay them to get them a car. And that's not good because they'll expect it all the time. We need people to get out there and get their shots. I don't care if you don't like it, you don't think it's going to work, get your shots because it might help the mayor, it might help everybody here. That was one of the reasons. The other reason is I remember a lot of things about Lake Springfield. It's made on a sweet creek that was bottomless. And my dad helped build it. My dad helped lay the bricks for the boats to get down to the water. And I think it's maybe one day we'll go dry. What day that is, we don't know. But I think we need another one to go along with it. And I believe we need to be cheerleaders and pom-pom girls and saxophone players about Springfield. Because Springfield is a beautiful city. I've lived here all my life, 81 years, okay? And I've seen a lot of things happen in this city. And I know what it's like. When you come home, you want to see somebody at home in your house and your streets looking nice, okay? I also know what it is to sleep out in the cold and be homeless. I was with the Springfield Project, and we had to count how many homeless were. The stories I heard and the aggravation I heard and how cold it was and sleeping in cardboard boxes. Now they got tents. At that time, they had cardboard boxes. And I often wonder if we move them into a building and nobody's there to talk to them, and nobody's there willing to sit next to someone that has smelled and peed and everything else, you know, that's what happens to them. I wish we could find a good solution for that problem, for the homeless. I think you got a good start. You got a half a rail, you know, step. You still got another ladder to go, you know, in this. And I think it would work. But the main reason why I came up here is because I've had a lot of people in my house, including my buddy over there, Mr. Tate. I had him on speed dial. He came out with the whole crew. And I never had so many people talk to me about my house. I am so worried with my house and my electric that the man that did it did not do a good job. In fact, I think he manicured most of it. And they were all friendly enough to tell me what could be done. And I found out that he's lying to people about what he's done and what he hasn't done. And it's making hard for people to understand the truth. And the truth is that my house needs a good paint job, as Nate can tell you, that is not finished. So I just want to thank them for what they have done and how they helped and continue to help to get this off the ground, for I would have a nice house to live in. And also, I think you're a good cheerleader, as good as a pom-pom, okay?
I appreciate that.
And I know you'll make it, all of you, okay? And I think the Horseshoe has a good idea to continue on this path and make our city beautiful. And bring a casino. Then then you won't have to worry about it.
Alice wants to gamble.
Huh?
Alice wants to gamble.
Okay, you guys, and be healthy and stay strong.
Yeah, Alice reminded me of something. The media asked me this yesterday when they were talking about the mask mandate, and I said, what we should be doing is encourage people to get a vaccine. And those that don't want to get a vaccine, what we should be asking, do you have children in your lives? And if you don't want to get it for yourself, get it for the children in your lives, because they can't get it. And that's one way, definite way to reduce the impact of the spread. So we encourage everybody that has children in their lives to get the vaccine. If not for yourself, get it for your children or the ones that you come in contact with. So thank you very much.
Alderwoman DeSantis.
Real quick, next Wednesday is City Council because Tuesday is National Night Out. A lot of events going on around Springfield, so get out, meet your neighbors, eat some free food, and socialize and have a good time.
Thanks for the reminder.
Cheerleading. Cheerleading 101.
I'll be on my boat, my flag.
They're having a vaccination clinic at the library. Mayor, did you want
to get your shot?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't remember the dates of it, but I think it might
The
be
29th? Or is it Friday?
It's on at Friday at 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So they're offering the Johnson & Johnson one shot or Pfizer, and you can get your second dose of the vaccine at that clinic as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens to address the committee?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a motion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.
You can't fool with Chuck. Chuck and Shine didn't give you a chance.
Have you ever said
Give him a Let me go down here and tell you.
We could have them come back.